Let's get to some DFW sports. New Year's resolutions, 877-881-1053. If you have any New Year's resolutions for any of your favorite DFW sports teams, Cowboys, Rangers, Stars, or Mavericks, let's get to them right now. I did see from the 817 DFW sports resolutions, they have a list of them, and I like that. They said, 1, see Mike McCarthy not get a new contract. Number 2, see the Rangers win a second championship and forcing the Astros into the rebuild phase, which it seems like Jock Peterson is already trying to do that through word of mouth, which he's already one of my favorite Rangers, and he hasn't even taken a single at-bat. But that opens up a wide-open conversation here, starting off with a bang. Mike McCarthy not getting a new deal as a New Year's resolution. So this feels like I've done this in my time here. I've run this segment pretty much every year that I've been able to host around this time of the year. And that seems to be a recurring theme for the Dallas Cowboys, and it's just the overarching idea of change. Mm-hmm. And usually it's from the top down. Mm-hmm. And that starts and a lot of times ends with your head coach. And, I mean, we were talking about it, Will Chambers, Mike Bassick, and I earlier this week. Isn't it amazing to think that, just a couple weeks from now, last year, everybody was saying, get McCarthy his cardboard boxes, pack up his office, get him out of here. Almost everybody was on that train saying, let's move on. Let's find somebody new. Don't care who it is. We just want something different. Sports fans always want change. And that's where you start here from the Franco and Franco injury attorney text line is getting the head coach out of there, which I haven't gotten to do radio with you in a while, so I haven't really gotten your grasp on this Cowboys season a lot. Where your Mike McCarthy returns-o-meter, what percentage is it at?
Well, if he's going to return, and do I want him to, are two different percentages. When it comes to do I think he's going to, after that Eagles game, I would have maybe said 2%, maybe 1%. Since then, they've looked like the best team that's trying to win games when they shouldn't be, because a Mike McCarthy team, when they're not supposed to win, winning, who would have thought of that?
Oh, yeah.
I probably would say it's like an 85% chance. I mean, every time Jerry has a chance to speak highly about him, he does. Now, I will say, a little caveat, he did do something similar to Garrett in the season before.
Yep.
Was saying never really outed his job, never really said he was coming back, but every chance he had a chance to talk about him, talked highly of him. So I will say a little caveat, maybe that's the play. But it seems like a lot of the guys are fighting for him. It doesn't seem like, oh yeah, the team is ready to move on, and we've heard from this source that they're already planning this head coaching guy. There's nothing really that's come out. No smoke around McCarthy leaving, but I personally, Blake, am not like enthralled to have him back. Now, you might be pushing back and say, well, why, Blake? He's 12 wins here and 12 wins there, and he's gotten the Cowboys to this, and everybody was injured. It's not McCarthy's fault. And while I do agree, I do not think this season is McCarthy's fault. I think it's more on the front office or not putting a great team around him. What do we want to learn from McCarthy was, can you make that playoff push? I think people get it caught up and lost in translation of what this season was supposed to be, was can McCarthy get you over that playoff hump? And I don't think this current quarterback, coach, and star players, the core of your team, is going to get you over that playoff hump. That's just Blake's opinion. You can disagree. You can agree. 877-881-1053. And I just don't think this core is what it takes to win a Super Bowl. Mainly the coach and quarterback. Now, obviously, some people agree. Some people disagree with that. But when Carter interviewed us not too long ago and asked for our New Year's resolution for the 1053 The Fan Instagram, mine was the Cowboys to not be afraid of failure. It feels like people have all these crazy takes about Jerry and whatever it may be. My biggest thing, I think, is that he is afraid for them to hit rock bottom. Whether that be sales, whether that be the team, whatever it is. He doesn't want them to rock bottom. They don't. He's not necessarily going to lose it all for them to hit the top. But like, hey, if we can be right here in the middle, 8 wins, 12 wins, first round of playoffs, just good enough, Pro Bowl players, like he's fine with that. And I'm not in Jerry's head or in the locker room, so I don't know that for a fact. It's just me speculating. But I feel like he's afraid to make that big step, getting that head coach no one's heard of, drafting that quarterback, drafting that wide receiver, whatever it may be, doing that step of a leap of faith, if you will, of, hey, this could pay off, and maybe we're the next best team in the NFC, a Lions type, a Green Bay, moving on from an Aaron Rodgers to an unknown Jordan Love guy and a young receivers, like that kind of stuff. The Lions overhaul the roster versus like, hey, because he wants to stay right, doesn't want to go below league average. And the Cowboys never are really like, we thought they were going to be at this season. They kind of cleaned themselves up to be kind of right around a little bit below league average. They weren't the Panthers or the Raiders or the Giants where they're 2-3 wins getting blown out by 40 every week. So I just think that would be my New Year's resolution, taking a leap of faith. Feels like the Cowboys don't want to do that. And at some point, you're going to have to do more than just a soft rebuild.
Mediocrity is a drug, right? Like,
correct.
It feels like in pro sports, you hit the nail on the head there, that so many, and it's not just the Cowboys, it's just the microscope that they're under is so much bigger. The magnifying glass sees a lot more things, that like so many organizations and owners and coaches are just so okay with being okay. They don't want to be good, they don't want to be great, they want to be okay. You know, and like you said, the fear of irrelevancy drives them to make decisions that aren't exactly conducive to being great, to winning. Because the only time that I feel like I can remember it being successful is like the Kansas City Chiefs before Patrick Mahomes. Mm-hmm. With Alex Smith, they were a perennial playoff team. They kept making pushes. They would fizzle out in the middle to the end of the playoffs, and they could just never make it over that hump. They draft Patrick Mahomes, and it's almost instant success. That's the only recent time I can think of mediocrity kind of getting a team somewhere. But even then, mediocrity was a little bit on the less successful side because they had a good enough pick to get Mahomes there in the front half of the draft.
Shout out to the Bills.
Exactly. But outside of that, especially in football, you don't really see mediocrity getting people places. I mean, look at the Houston Texans. We regard them this year was a little bit of a struggle with injuries, and their offense didn't really look the same, but we saw them as a bottom-of-the-barrel team for so long. And it took them being absolutely horrible and admitting that they made the wrong choice, signing Deshaun Watson to a long-term deal, getting an absolute fleece of a trade made to the Cleveland Browns. They used those assets to not only find their new quarterback, but to find who could be a generational pass rusher in the process, kind of like the Cowboys did a few years ago with a dude that wears number 11. And they're finding themselves in the playoffs now. And they're still a ways away. They're still not a great team. They still have plenty of holes to fill on that roster and a young and inexperienced coaching staff.
Think how fast the Rams turned it around.
Exactly.
Won the Super Bowl, had all these expensive contracts, older players, no draft picks, and just, 2 years later, back in the playoffs with 5th and 4th round guys.
Yeah. And it works. And for the Cowboys, it's a lot more of a popularity contest than it is an on-the-field product. Mine that I gave, we totally stole this idea from Carter because he wanted to do this for social media, but I was like, man, I could give you like 10 minutes of a video. And it was like, well, you need to keep it under like 15. I was like, you know what? I'm turning that into a segment. There you go. For me, it's expanding on what you'll see on the fan social pages is commit to the run game, man. Re-sign Rico Dowdle. Bring him back. 1,000-yard rusher as an undrafted free agent. Never done before in the history of the Dallas Cowboys franchise. Bring him back. Like, he's not going to be so expensive to where you have to bat an eye, I don't think. He's definitely going to get paid more than you expected him to in free agency, but he's not going to be richer than you can afford. I can tell you that right now.
Can I ask you this? What do you want the running back room to look like next year?
In Alec Medford's perfect world, there's a dude named Ashton Genty as your running back 1, and then Rico Dowdle splitting the carries with him in his rookie year.
Okay.
Because I think it's a short-term deal for Dowdle. I think it's like 2 years at best. And then you can see that real complementary football in the running back room itself, which is what I say it's what the team told us was going to happen this year, and it didn't at all. Rico Dowdle is the one talented running back in your running back room, as shown by what happened yesterday. Ezekiel Elliott getting released, if you missed that news. But for me, it's just keeping a commitment to the run game like you used to. It feels like Cowboys of old used to have a very big commitment to it, but go draft a running back, whether it is Genty. I already saw somebody text in and said Scadaboo would look great with the Cowboys star on his helmet. I think there's a lot of good running backs in this draft that would be good value picks that don't have to be day 1 picks, that don't have to be day 2 picks.
Devin Neal, Marion Hampton, there's a lot of good guys.
You just can't do what you did last year and not address it whatsoever.
Yeah.
You have to get somebody to play with alongside Dowdle. He can't be your only option. I think he's a running back 1 in this league. I really do. I've said that for weeks now. I even told Jerry Jones that. I just need to see somebody that can give him a break.
I think one of your first 3 rounds has got to be used on a running back. I would probably go 2nd or 3rd round just because I think Rico is giving you that luxury. I think the way Rico has finished this season has shown you it is not priority 1. Not saying it's not a priority. It is not priority 1 to get a running back because I think this O-line, and I hate to say this, it might be sacrilegious, but with Zach Martin, they look better. Sorry to say it. Brock Hoffman and TJ Bassender have looked better than Zach Martin did this year. All love to the guy, Cowboys legend. But with this new offensive line, even Terrence Steele hasn't looked half bad. And Rico back there, they've been a top 10 rush game and arguably top 5 since Rico's been taken over. So I don't mind getting a Hampton, a Neal, some of those guys, a Scadaboo, whatever, in the later rounds. I think for me, my biggest priority for the Cowboys minor league getting into draft talk, I think it's got to be another receiver. A receiver or a corner. Because now at corner, you know how many corners you have on the roster next year? 3. One of those guys is Kalen Carson. Love him. But obviously
he needs time. He just needs time. Yeah.
Not ready yet. And the other guy is a guy coming off another major surgery, and Trayvon Diggs.
Yep.
And then Deron Bland, of course. So,
who hasn't stayed relatively healthy in his own right.
So do you want to use your round 1 pick on a corner? It's not a bad choice. I wouldn't mind a receiver because outside of CD, who's
Brandon Cooks is about to leave more than likely too.
More than likely, Jalen Talbert. I call him Talbert. I call him Talbert all the time. Talbert and Turpin.
Where did that come from?
I don't know. Me and Fred always messed up their names on purpose.
On purpose.
Tolbert to me is a wide receiver 3 or 4.
I think he's a 4.
He's a 4. And Turpin, love the guy. Quick as all get up, but a wide receiver 5, 4, that's a gadget that's fun.
That's my guy, man.
I love Turp.
I want to see him.
I love Turp. Mingo.
4th round pick, baby.
Good run blocker. Ryan Flournoy, who's looked good in spades, but I don't know if any of those guys, I think altogether, if you mix every guy I just named plus Jalen Brooks, you have a wide receiver 3.
Jeez. Put them in a blender, and you're still not going to get anything good, according to Blake Elliott. There you have it. One more from the Frankel and Frankel injury attorney text line from the 806, because I like this. For the Rangers, find a long-term closer, 3+ years.
I agree.
Which is hard to do in today's age of baseball because they usually get traded around. But
you want Kirby back?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
And I think they do bring him back. That's not based off of anything. That's just me being confident and putting my life on the line for Chris Young because I think he's the best GM in baseball.